Happy weekend, Aspire Leaders. This week I have the wonderful opportunity to talk with a media specialist who I actually met in New Ulm when I was doing my keynote presentation on increasing our capacity and improving our mental health. And one of my favorite things about speaking at a variety of different districts and traveling is I get to meet so many fantastic folks. And today I get to speak with Gail Boe, a children's book author who's got a wonderful message on both of her books. And before we dive into that conversation, I just wanted to let you know that this month our featured sponsor is S'more. They are just fantastic. I've had an opportunity to use this wonderful tool for many, many years as I was trying to build just a captivating school newsletter that provides wonderful communication, and this wonderful service does that. So my question to you is, are you struggling to create beautiful school newsletters people actually read? Look no further, because you need to take a look at S'more. S'more is a newsletter creator built for educators like you. It's super simple to get started with hundreds of customizable templates. You can add your own text, images, videos, links, polls, and more to create the perfect newsletters for your school community. And yes, you can also auto-translate your newsletter into 100+ languages and access detailed analytics to see who is opening your emails and clicking on links. This is so important as you're trying to figure out what is working for your stakeholders. It's super simple, super easy, and so effective. Get started today at s'more.com/teachbetter and get $50 off your first year of any S'more subscription plans. Again, head over to s'more.com/teachbetter. I'm telling you, this is a platform you're definitely going to want to use. All right, now let's head over to our conversation with the wonderful Gail Boe, who works in New Ulm, Minnesota as a media specialist and has two fantastic books, one called Lettuce and the other Hey. We're going to talk about those wonderful pieces, but we're also going to spend some time talking about just the underlying values that are so important to our educators and our leaders that are intertwined through those wonderful resources. Welcome back, everyone, to Aspire to Lead, where we will be discussing the visions, inspirations, and experiences from top educational leaders. My name is Joshua Stamper, and you can connect with me on Twitter or on Instagram at Joshua_Stamper. All right, Aspire Leaders and Teach Better family, thank you so much for joining Aspire to Lead once again this week. I have a wonderful and special guest that I had a fantastic time talking with as I was keynoting in New Ulm, Minnesota, one of my favorite places. As most of my listeners know, I grew up in Minnesota. It's a special place in my heart. So whenever I get to go back, it's always a wonderful time. And I got to meet so many fantastic educators and leaders, and Gail connected with me afterwards, and I got to learn about two fantastic books. One is called Lettuce, one is called Hey. We're going to talk about those children's books, but we're also going to learn more about her and some of her passions. So with that, Gail, thank you so much for joining Aspire to Lead.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. It's a pleasure. I always love our conversations. And with that, I got to learn about your story, your journey, not only as an author, but as an educator. And I'd love for you to share that with my listeners as far as what your educational and leadership background is.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Minneota, Minnesota, which is a very small town in Minnesota. I grew up with my parents and my two older sisters. Then I went on to pursue a degree in education, in elementary education at Southwest Minnesota State University in Marshall. I graduated with a degree in elementary education and a pre-primary specialty. So I had a license in ages 3 to grade 6. My first job, I was at a small Catholic school in Canby, Minnesota, and I taught Title I and I taught kindergarten. After that, I went to full-time kindergarten. Then I got married and moved to New Ulm, Minnesota. And when I got here, I did not know anybody. So I did not know very many people in the school systems, and I got a job at the Catholic school here, and I was a paraprofessional, a special ed paraprofessional for a year. I got a position working with the preschool program there for 3 years before I moved over then to the public school and worked with their preschool program for about a year. Then I worked in the computer lab at the elementary school. So I kind of been all over the board, and then got into the classroom in 6th grade. So I was a teacher for 3 years in 6th grade, and I taught science and reading and social studies. Then after that, New Ulm built a new high school. So they reallocated the buildings and they did some reconstruction and things like that. And I moved once again, and this time I went to 2nd grade. And I was in 2nd grade for a year. And then I really felt after my journey of kind of hopping around with different things in education, I was better suited to kind of step back from the classroom and kind of be behind the scenes. And that is what led me to the library or the media center at Jefferson in New Ulm. And I've been there for the last 8 years now. And I just, like I said, teaching is a lot of being on stage. I kind of go with it as you're the main character, you're the lead of the play, and you're on stage constantly. And I just found I was better suited to be behind the curtain and to help that person that's on stage a little bit better. I do from time to time, and quite a bit, because subs are very short. I do step out from behind the curtain and go back into the classroom and sub whenever I am needed just to help out for those days. But yeah, I'm very happy to be where I'm at. I feel like all those different positions in education has helped me to figure out exactly, where I feel best suited, where I best feel I make a difference, and to help my fellow colleagues and the students themselves. So
Oh my goodness, yes.
I'm
Really what I
doing
got
it.
out of that story, Gail, is that you wear many hats and are very talented. So you have had so many different roles. That's awesome.
Right.
And I want to touch on the one that you're on currently, because
Yes.
I know that our media specialists, I mean, no matter what district I was in, whatever campus,
Hmm.
I leaned on that person heavily. And I
Hmm.
know our staff as a whole did. So will you just share out kind of what that position is for you, specifically where you're at on your campus?
Okay, I'm in the elementary building, so that one is for grades 1 through 4. So I do all the book checkouts. I make sure that all the books are up to date in the system. I make sure that new books, when they arrive, that they are all barcoded and correlated and all put together like that. And then I also help out with the tech side of things because they use the computers, they use the iPads and all that sort of thing. So I help the students in the library, but then also out in the classroom if a teacher has an issue that they need help with, because the smart boards, they are a dying breed, and they did.
Not always that smart.
Nope. And so we had to switch and do a different screen, basically a smart TV. And sometimes they're not as smart either. But yeah, so I kind of feel like the utility player, I guess, in baseball.
Mhm.
You kind of have to go where you're needed, and that's kind of what I'm doing. So, and I
Oh, for
really enjoy
sure.
it.
Yes, and you do a wonderful job at that. And obviously, you're an author. Where we're going to talk
Hmm.
about your books in just a little bit, but I
Sure.
do want to touch on, because I think every time we talk,
Hmm.
the key things that I pull from our conversation is that you've got some real hard passions, and they are in the books. And I
Hmm.
want to touch on these values and virtues, because I think they're important. I think they can translate for our leaders and our educators that are listening.
Hmm.
One is being kind. I know
Hmm.
that's one of the pieces in your children's book, but
Yep.
it's more about the talk versus the walk. And I want you to
Hmm.
touch on that a little bit more, as far as why you felt like this was so important to be in the literature, but then also what should we be mindful of as we're leading our campus in regards to being kind.
Right. Yes. So there's so many things out there with being kind, and there's t-shirts up to any type of merchandise that says be kind, and you can like throw it around like confetti, everybody be kind and stuff. And then like a second later, you're not so kind. But I just really wanted something that is genuine, like, to be yourself and to be kind, and just to have those times when you just feel, good about yourself and passionate about it, and that you can share that with other people. And also, when you see somebody doing their passion, their wonder that they enjoy doing, that you can cheer them on and be like, yeah, you are like great at what you do. You have a genuine love and desire for that. And it's just those type of things, really, to hone in on the things that people do so well, and just to enunciate that and just really, show that with other people. And that's what kind of my first story, my first book, Lettuce, was all about, was finding what it is that you feel that you are passionate about, and just to keep going with it. And there's nothing, in there that you have to be like somebody else in order to achieve this. And so that's just be your kind and be yourself. And I just wish that more people would just understand that, or just like do that, and rather than like get so caught up with, well, if I do that, people are going to judge me, or they're going to look at me funny, or all that. And I just feel that I really, wish, just like, let yourself just love yourself so much that, and just be who you are. And so I just wish, we would show a little bit more genuine kindness and genuine love, not only to other people, but also to yourself too.
Oh my goodness, yes. What a beautiful message, and one that needs to be said. As educators, and I do this myself. I mean, we beat
Hmm.
ourselves up all the
Hmm.
time, and we're not exactly getting in roses and flowers out there, and
Right.
accolades from folks in the
Right.
community or from our parents all the time. So we're already taking it from other folks, and so we need to have that language within ourselves. You had talked
Hmm.
about real quick about just being who you're supposed to be.
Hmm.
And I know also in your literature, it's talks about, do what you love and what you're
Hmm.
passionate about. But I want you to share out just, where did this concept come from? Is this something from your own journey, or maybe even just seeing as an educator from other people? I mean, your
Hmm.
viewpoint as far as maybe, folks not doing what they absolutely love and are passionate about.
Actually, it came from a couple of different things. The first thing that it came from was something that my dad always told me. He goes, work hard and do your best. And, that is definitely being kind to yourself and figuring out that, if you do work hard and you do your best, good things would happen. And so I've just kept that kind of concept tried to, through my whole life. And then the second part is probably all those different things that I went through in education, from Title I to kindergarten to a special ed paraprofessional, preschool, just in the computer lab, to sixth grade to second grade, and finding that all those things are great and people are really good at those things, but it just wasn't me. And I found a better fit and more, passion and success with what I'm doing now, and working, with kids in the library, but also helping my other colleagues to help them continue where their passion is. And they're really good, teachers, and and paraprofessionals too. And I just feel like that journey, going through all sorts of different things in education, I finally found where I felt like I could be myself, and where I, had the most success, and where I fit in the best, and I wasn't trying so hard to be like somebody else, trying to be, the teacher of the year or anything like that. I could just be Gail, and
Mhm.
that's all I needed to be. So, and that's all anybody ever expected me to be. So I just feel like I finally found that one spot where this is where I feel I excel in, and where I'm the most comfortable and the most kind to myself.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcasts. Now let's get back to the episode.
So I'm just thinking through some of our listeners, and if they're in a position now where they're not feeling that, are
Hmm.
you giving permission to
Yeah,
potentially go and find a different role similar to what your journey was?
absolutely. Absolutely. I spent a lot of time, going back and forth and toying with it. You went through college and you spent all that time and money and sweat and tears and all that sort of thing, just to feel like you failed, or you are going to throw it all away, just, because you think you can't hack it, or you think, but it's not who I was. And if it's not who you are, what are you doing? I mean, why are you putting so much time and effort in something that is just not feeling who you are, and feeling that you are, even good enough for doing? And so, yeah, permission, definitely. Yes, I felt all those emotions though of, well, you just threw away your degree, or you threw away, money or stuff like that. But I was like, my mental health is way more important. My happiness, to be kind to myself, is way more important. And just to be who I am. And I feel like, I mean, I even looked at pictures of myself and I was surprised or shocked to look back at it, some of them, like the defeat in my face. And then the next year when I wasn't, in the classroom, or I wasn't in that position, it looked like a different person. And I'm the type of person that'll wear it on my face because there's a lot of times, that particular year, people be like, "Are you okay? How's it going?" And the next year they're just like, wow. So definitely, I couldn't stress that enough, that, you definitely give yourself that permission, give yourself that moment to really just step back and say, what is it that I really want to do? And is this the fit for me? And if it's not, I would 100% change it.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on everything you're talking about. I know that I went to a different campus, and then when I came back to my other campus, several folks were like, "You look so much more rested," or "You looked happier." And there was like several comments like right after another and another. And I was like, good night. What did I look like before?
I know.
But it was obvious that I needed to make a change. And so I think it does show. It does show on your face. And even if you don't realize it, other people are seeing that. Love your story. I want to say, just to amplify the be kind to yourself piece, I want to talk as people were watching on screen, and for those on YouTube, you saw me slam this Magic Mind. And I think by taking this, I'm actually being kind to myself because I'm putting all natural ingredients, and it is a shot to my mind, to my energy, to my health. All natural ingredients, like I said, and it is something that I take every single day. I get a pack of 30 every month delivered to my door. It's beautiful. I just got one actually a few days ago. I was super excited about that. As I open it up, I have to actually beat my kids and my wife to it because they're all running to the fridge trying to grab one of these Magic Minds. So all that being said, I'm going to throw up a code because for the month of October, and I can't believe they're doing this, but they're giving 40% off for Aspire to Lead listeners. So head over to magicmind.com/aspire-to-lead40 and then use the code aspire-to-lead40 for your 40% off of your subscription. Like I said, there's subscription models. There's different varieties that you can grab as far as quantity. It comes right to your door. You can end the subscription anytime. There's a money back guarantee, which I don't think you're ever going to use. It's phenomenal. It tastes delicious. And like I said, it's got all these wonderful natural ingredients. It sharpens your mind. It lowers your stress. It's phenomenal. So highly recommended. I use it for everything. If I'm about to write a blog or for my book, I slam one of these. If I go for a run, if I'm going to do a keynote speak like I did at New Ulm, I'd slam one of these bad boys because they are small. I can throw it in my luggage and it's easy to take. So with that, I want to just give you the website one more time for those who are listening on podcast players. It's magicmind.com/aspire-to-lead40 and use the code aspire-to-lead40. The link will be in the show notes, both on podcast players, on joshstamper.com, and on YouTube. All right, Gail, I want to go back to what we were talking about with your books. And we're going to go into the origin story of the books a little bit later. But I know for your second book, there was another piece to that value that I want to just touch on real quick, which is not knowing what other people are going through in their life. I know for myself, I would walk the campus all the time and it'd be like, how are you doing? How are you doing? Not that I'm going to stop down, because if someone really truly was having a bad day and they want to have a conversation, it would have been very difficult to stop in my tracks to have that. And depending on the environment too. I mean, there were passing periods, hundreds and hundreds of kids around, probably not the best environment for that. But I know for your book, Hey, that's kind of a core value is knowing what's going on in other people's lives. So we just talk about that piece further.
So yeah, after Lettuce was done and then kind of got ourselves through COVID and we didn't have a lot of interaction with people during that time. And so then I was kind of thinking about, wow, how are people doing? How did things go for them? Were they good? Were they fine? Were they not so hot? Was it pretty tight? Was it, just exhausting? And I was just thinking, like, we don't know what's going on with somebody. Wouldn't it be great if, you said something and a little light bulb or a little woohoo came through, and then you can be like, oh, that's what they got going on, or that's what they're going through, or that's why they kind of looked a little funny, in the meeting, or if that's why they, had that look on their face. And so kind of just with that whole concept, I was like, that would be a really good idea to kind of showcase and share with people, say, like we don't know what's going on with people. And so that kind of idea kind of went in my mind and spinning and things like that. And I just looked at that common 3-word question, how are you? And we say it all the time. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, that spells out the word hey. If you take the H and then you take the A and then you take the Y. And then it just snowballed from there saying, hey, needle in a haystack, super hard to find, you can't figure it out type of thing. So I was like, that right there was perfect to have the analogy on we don't really know what's going on. And so to ask those questions and to genuinely listen, that you really, have their interest at heart. So that's kind of where that idea all came from.
All right, Gail, you had talked about being kind of behind the curtain. And I know as an author, you're having to go in front of the curtain and in front of a lot of folks. You have traveled to schools, done your book talks. I know you've been featured in, the news and in newspapers, which is fantastic. And I just want to learn more about that journey because I feel like it's something that maybe is hard for you to step out onto the stage and share, all of these wonderful values with folks. But it's so important that you've done this. And I just want to learn like why you took that step forward to maybe get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I had both the idea for lettuce and hay. Well, lettuce first, that was kind of during COVID and things like that. And I was just like, you know what? I really want to try writing a children's book. I'm in the library all the time. I see all of them. I see all the new ones coming through. So I wanted to give it a shot. And these ideas for lettuce and hay just wouldn't like go away. And I was like, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to try. And so I did that. And then I'm like, well, what do I do now? Because I'm not a big time author. I don't have a traditional publishing company or anything like that. So I did some researched where I could submit a manuscript, without an agent, without anything like that. And I was fortunate enough to find a company in Virginia, and it's Mascot Books. And they had this really great thing on their website where you just submit your idea. And then if it's something that they want to pursue with you, they will get in touch with you. And I was fortunate enough that they wanted to pursue this with me. And so I was all excited, and we went through the whole thing and did the editing of my manuscript. And then we did picking an illustrator, which was the most fun. And they got to, give me ideas on how they thought like lettuce or the hay characters would look. And I just thought that was so cool. And then they gave me pencil sketches and they added color. And I didn't realize like I had to be so detailed, and I had to have this going on in my mind on what it is that I really want these pages to look like. Because I just thought, oh, here, I'll just give you my manuscript and you just go for it, But that's not the way it worked. So putting all that into detail, like my manuscript for a children's book, obviously it wasn't that long. It was like maybe a page and a half. But after I got all the details, it went to 5-6 pages, because I had to share all that. And then waiting and being patient for the books then all to get printed and put together. And then I was all okay with all that process. It was the marketing that did me in, because I was like, I'll just be the person behind the scenes writing the book and it'll just be great. And then I was like, oh no, I have to do marketing. I have to put myself out there, and share this and share my story and share, why I wanted to do this. And I was pretty fortunate that working in the elementary school, that my media specialist was like, yep, we can't have somebody come in because of COVID. You're right here. We're going to have you be our author, and you're going to, would you want to present about it? And I was like, okay, sure. And so it was great, because then I was in a place where I could do it for the first time in comfort and familiarity, because, I didn't jump and go on like a bus and just go around the countryside. So, but it was really good, because then she had the local paper come from our town in New Ulm, and so he did a story on it. And so that was really good. And then the kids got really excited about it. And I made little bookmarks, and handed those out, trying to get some promotional things going and things like that. And so after that, then things kind of that really helped, because then another library in the area was like, hey, we saw, that you did this at your school. Would you be willing to come to the library? And I did that too. And then also the paper there did a little story about it. So that helped. And because of those two papers, I don't know how kind of the newspaper industry works, but then it got even to Mankato, Minnesota, which is bigger. And so they picked it up for their paper, and then they actually had a photographer come, and I was like, oh. After that, the local television station in Mankato, KEYC, they sent somebody, and I was like, oh, this is great, and fun. So I got a little blurb on their newsreel, so that was great. And then my hometown, of course, had a little newspaper. So I got to do something there for our town days, which were called Box Elder Bug Days. And in the town of New Ulm, too, there's a place called The Grand. It's the Grand for Culture and Arts. And they have artists that come and show off their paintings or show off their sculptures and things like that. And they also have like a little cabaret thing where they can have musicians and things like that as well. And the person that was kind of the marketing person, she contacted me and wanted to know if I wanted to do a book talk there. So that was another thing that I got to do. And the more that I did them, I got more comfortable in sharing my story. And I viewed it as not like my own cheerleader, like, woo, look at me. It was more, I want to tell you about, my story. And I want to tell you why I, want these books to get out to as many people as possible, because I feel like their messages are very good and people can use them in either in the classroom or just with your own kids, or just even as an adult, as just a quick reminder.
Love it. So for those who are watching on YouTube, you've probably seen Gail's website. So gailboe.com for those who are listening on the podcast platforms. Make sure you're heading over to her website. We're also going to talk in just a little bit about how to connect with her on social media also. But before we do that, Gail, I would love just to gain a little insight, because for this podcast, and I do this with all my guests, I like to get an actionable step for our aspiring or current leaders. So it could be connected to the values. It could be something completely different. But for those who are listening, if they can do something tomorrow or next week to enhance their leadership journey, what would you recommend them do?
I would recommend that they really look at what they are doing with their job, with their family, with their friends, and ask themselves, are you happy? Are you being true and kind to yourself? And ask yourself, how are you? And really, look at yourself and look at everything that's in your life, and just be honest with yourself and ask that easy yet hard question. How are you? Are you enjoying everything that you have? Because you're not going to meet 100% of the criteria ever, but you can enjoy life. You can be happy, and you can be kind to yourself. So I guess the biggest thing would be just to ask yourself, how are you? And really, really give yourself an honest answer.
So powerful. All right. So Gail, I want everyone that's listening to be able to connect with you, not only on your website, but through social media. So what's the best way to do that?
The best way probably that I check the most often is Instagram and Facebook. So my Instagram is instagram.com/gail.boe. And then my Facebook is facebook.com/gail.boe.3.
And just to let everyone know, Boe is spelled B-O-E. So
Yes.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah,
It's not like Bo Jackson for the baseball reference.
Yes.
So to make it easier, though, of course, if you head over to joshdenver.com, I'll have all the links for Gail. Make sure you're clicking on that. If you're on YouTube, of course, it'll be in the description also. If you're watching, I appreciate that. Make sure that you're hitting that like button, subscribe for Joshua Stamper as far as the channel, or if you're watching on the Teach Better channel, make sure you're doing the same there, as that's a growing community. Man, Gail, I've just been so honored to get to know you, hear about your journey. I absolutely love your two resources, which I'll have links to also in the show notes, for Lettuce and for Hay. Just phenomenal books with the values that we talked about today. And Gail, I know you say that you're behind the curtain, but you are making a huge impact, not only on your campus, but all over the country. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.